tell you about our speakers, and then get you into this content right away. I'm actually really excited about this presentation. It's been a long time coming. We've been working on this for months, so you should be excited too. We have Larry Kim from WordStream and Tim Ash from SiteTuners. In a minute, I'll tell you a little bit more about them. But for now, for those who don't know, WordStream, we're a search marketing software provider. We've got free and paid tools to help you easily scale and manage your AdWords and Bing campaigns. And SiteTuners is actually one of the first online marketing agencies to focus exclusively on conversion rate optimization. So they really know what they're talking about. Now just a few logistics for you. This webinar is being recorded, and I will send an email with the recording along with the slides shortly after our session today in case you miss anything or want to share the really great content with your colleagues. We do have time dedicated to Q&A at the end, so as your questions come up, type them right into the control box. I'll keep track of them, and we'll address them at the end. This webinar is brought to you by WordStream's PPC University, and this is a section of our website where you can get lessons and everything from paid search advertising 101 all the way to advanced lessons. And we've got stuff on landing pages on conversion rate optimization, working on your click-through rate, quality score, all of that. So this is free resource for you, wordstream.com/learn to get those resources. And I'd love to tell you a little bit about our next webinar. Next week, Larry Kim, our founder, will be joined by Rand Fishkin, founder of Moz, with a really great webinar. Larry, why don't you tell us a little more about that?
Sure. Just it's on content marketing and how to get more leads from the content marketing efforts that you're already doing.
Great. So I just sent you guys a link to register in the chat, so you can click there at any time to register for next week's webinar. And you can also chat with us not only through the Q&A box, but on Twitter. We've got a hashtag going, AB Delusion, pretty appropriate for this topic. You can also use hashtag CRO, our Twitter handles, whatever you like. Chat with attendees, share relevant links. I like to send out some screenshots of the slides that I think are really compelling or funny. So yeah, use that hashtag to follow along and participate. And what you've been waiting for, to learn a little bit more about who's talking to you today. So these are two amazing conversion landing page optimization experts. Larry is the founder and CTO of WordStream, and he's actually voted the most influential PPC expert 2 years running. He's been cited in over 10,000 publications with 10 million views. I actually think that number is probably out of date now, so it's even more. So he's definitely considered an expert in the field. And Tim he's got a lot of credentials. He's CEO of SiteTuners, author of the renowned landing page optimization book, which I just started reading, and it's been extremely helpful for myself, and the chair of Conversion Conference. He's an expert in user-centered design, and he can tell you a little bit more about what he does and SiteTuners does in just a minute. And lastly, before I pass you over to Tim, I want to learn a little bit about you. I know our speakers want to learn a little bit about you and make sure we're giving you the right content. So I have a question for you, and that's just how much time do you spend optimizing your landing pages? Option A, you don't yet. You just set them up, you let them run, and that's what you're here to learn about today. B, maybe a few times a year, maybe quarterly. C, once a month. D, you're like me. You're always tinkering, probably spending several hours a week on your landing pages. So I am sending you that poll right now, so you guys can click the options A, B, C, or D based off whatever's true for you. So I see some results starting to come in, and it looks like we're split almost evenly with a quarter of you guys in each category. So that's great. We've got a really even split there. I am going to share those results with you guys so you can see where you fall. See, hopefully you can see the results. If not, it's 27% are just learning to optimize now, 29% a few times a year, 16% at least once a month, and the last 30% of you are always tinkering. Okay, so that's that. I'm going to hand you over to Tim now.
Terrific. Thanks so much, Kate. I really appreciate it. I'm going to just share my screen here. Bear with me one second. Okay, you should be able to see the slide that now says about SiteTuners. Just want to give you a little bit about our perspective. We're a San Diego-based conversion rate optimization agency, and we've been at this for a long time, since 2002, and work with clients all over the world, both large and small, across all industries. And just so you understand our perspective, we have three main practice areas. The first is redesigning web experiences for higher conversion, and that we can do with a bring in the bulldozer and start over, or just a quick facelift. The second, of course, is landing page test plans and test strategy development. And we also have a growing practice in ongoing conversion management, helping our clients essentially growth hack their way to success with whatever conversion-related activities we can help with. Part of that often means making them self-sufficient. So over time, doing knowledge transfer and actually teaching them how to fish. Because long-term, we don't think you should be outsourcing CRO to us or to anyone. It's just way too important and core of an activity. So having said that, we work with probably big clients, small clients. You may recognize some of these. My vice president of business development said I had to put that slide up. But I want to just move on to the content right away, because Larry and I are going to pick a fight here. We're going to say some provocative stuff. So before I get misquoted, let me state for the record that I love split testing. It's, like I said, one of our core activities, and we've made, at last count, over $1.2 billion in annualized revenue for our clients through conversion rate testing specifically. So big fan. But having said that, as you heard earlier, I would say that you can see that we don't have a dog in the race. So what I mean by that is we're comfortable redesigning websites, where we do content plans for ROI, we do high-level consulting on organizational change and making that conversion rate optimization more central to the company and advancing them along our conversion maturity model. So we do a lot of different things. So to me, the big problem, and what I think Larry and I want to focus on and correct, is the big myth, as I could call it, that conversion rate optimization is testing. It's nothing else. That A/B testing is the answer to everything, life, the universe, and everything. And it's not. So I want to talk to you about that a little bit, because a lot of companies, when you talk to them about, do you do conversion rate optimization, the answer you get is usually expressed in numbers like, oh, well, we do, 4 tests a month. That's right. And, in our last test, we had 17.2% improvement. And so it's all about the testing and the measurement. And don't get me wrong, measurement is good and testing is good. But remember what testing is and what it isn't. And what it is, the only thing it is a way to validate the ideas for conversion rate improvement that you've deployed on your site. That's it. It's just to tell you, did we make a good decision or not? Is there something here that's better? But it doesn't give you the ideas. It doesn't help you do the hard work of coming up with those or the other organizational change that you need. So typically, when we're testing, I liken it to climbing a mountain in a blizzard. So join me on this. I'm going to tell you a little story. Just imagine yourself in this environment. You're climbing the mountain of conversion. You want to get to the highest possible conversion, but it's a whiteout. I mean, there's sleet, there's snow. You're doing your PPC campaigns, you're running your affiliate program, you're doing retargeting, you're driving all kinds of traffic, you're tinkering with your website, and all of this is kind of daily stuff that we do is this blizzard that I'm talking about. We're not very close to our customers necessarily. We're just doing our day-to-day thing as online marketers, and the imperative is to run faster. So how are we going to do this in the snowstorm? Well, here's what I suggest. Why don't we look around us by stepping around and go in the direction that leads the steepest upward. Okay, let's take a step in that direction. Okay, I'm going up. Hey, guess what? I'm in a better place than I was a minute ago. Let's feel around. What's the steepest direction up? Let's take another step, and so on and so on, and we trudge on through the blizzard. And then we do this all night long, and the blizzard clears, and we have this beautiful peaks, mountain peaks around us all the time. But what we find is this is what happened. We started out at a particular spot. We started out at the bottom of this hill here, and then we walked all night through the blizzard, and we ended up at the top of the nearest hill. So good for us. Okay, but the question is that where we wanted to be? And I would say, no, of course not. You know, we talk about the pinnacle of conversion. We want to get to the top of the mountain. We wanted to be here. And unfortunately, there's no way to get from where we are to where we want to be without crossing what I call the valleys of tears, the places where you're going downhill, the places where things are going to get worse. Okay? So this is, if you try to go down via testing into the valleys of tears, you're going to get comments like, well, what the heck? You know, you've been testing for the last 2 months, and you know you haven't found anything better, or you're costing us money, you're wasting our time. You're going to get fired over stuff like that. So nobody wants to do that. So once you get addicted to the quick hit and the pace of testing and see that as your only way to improve conversion rates, you're inevitably going to get stuck in this rocky landscape at the top of the nearest hill. And that's not where you want to be at all. All of us want that true peak of conversion that's possible in our environment. So that's one of my big issues with testing. You can't get to those peaks unless you at least start on the shoulder of the tall mountain. You can't get there unless you start in a different position, and the only way to teleport yourself to those other positions is to redesign your website or to plug in enabling technologies like marketing automation or personalization or third-party data append, behavioral targeting, predictive modeling. All of those things, lead scoring, are plumbing that will need to be done, and it's going to take time and effort, and you can't do it just with testing alone. So think of testing as what you're trying to accomplish by testing as being largely impossible. Yes, it can improve over where you are, especially if you're in a really horrid place to start, and most of us are from a customer's perspective, but it's like trying to change a biplane, an old-fashioned World War II plane, into a high-performance jet fighter while flying it. It's just not possible to do that kind of fundamental reinvention via testing. It's really going to, and you know, Larry will have his own perspective on it, but I know he's not a big fan of tinkering around the edges either. All right, I also want to give you some caveats, and I talk about in my landing page optimization book, of just when testing is not appropriate at all. And a lot of us fall into these traps. And what we're testing is either wrong-headed or we shouldn't be doing it. Let me give you some examples of that. One is to settle bar bets. You shouldn't be doing testing when problems are obvious. Just fix them. You'll know it's a problem. And you know, I hear a lot of people poo-pooing best practices, and it's true that you should test most important things. But if best practices work 9 out of 10 times, that's probably higher than your success rate for most of your tests. So you should be thinking, of what can I deploy? It's probably not going to make things worse and may make things better. So more effective copywriting, clearer calls to action, just getting rid of visual distractions on your page. There's a number of things that are just common sense. So please just do them. The creative director at Google famously quit a little while ago because they were testing. The final straw was that they were testing the shade of blue on the button, the RGB value of the shade of blue. And you know why they're doing that? Because they could, because Google has the mother of all data rates. I mean, they have infinite amounts of data, so they can test stupid, trivial stuff. But do you really need to test that? No. All right. Another problem that I often see with testing is testing when the problems aren't isolated. They're site-wide. Most of our testing tends to be limited to individual single pages. And that's okay, but not if you're part of a larger experience. So some of you may have been lucky to stand here or where this picture was taken and look at the Taj Mahal, and it's this incredible architectural masterstroke. And it just usually floats against this kind of purplish, orange sky, and the pools reflect the palace, and it's just beautiful. But if you've actually ever been to the site of the Taj Mahal, and you say, well, how did you get there? What's around those beautiful grounds? What you're going to find out is it's in the middle of an urban slum, a disgusting, unfortunately very poor area. And when you see it in that context, it's no longer this perfect thing. And so when you see that purple sunset, that's smog all around the palace. None of us really want that contrast. In fact, there's a word for it in psychology which is called cognitive dissonance. The more striking the difference is between two things, the more our brain tries to harmonize them, and it kind of just seizes up and goes, I can't handle it. And so in the same way, if you're, say, testing an e-commerce website, and I design you a couple of alternative versions of your product detail pages that are like the Taj Mahal of product detail pages. They're way better than what they replaced. The problem is going to be the rest of the site experience. You still have that horrid homepage with the sliding banner ad on the front. It's still impossible to find products. If I happen to stumble onto one, your checkout is going to make me walk on broken glass to give you money. So the context around that new and improved product detail page is actually going to bring into starker relief the fact that it sucks. And so you're going to say, wow, I made this page and I thought it'd be better, and gee, look, my performance suffered. Well, it's actually because of that contrast that you created and not fixing the context around it. So a lot of times you can't fix things by tactical testing because they're not isolated to one part of your site. They're part of the larger experience. Here's another circumstance in which not to do testing, and that is when you don't have enough traffic. I see this all the time. And with the best of intentions, people go into this. But to me, even basic A/B split testing, if you don't have 10 conversion actions per day, you shouldn't be doing testing. Because it'll take you weeks or months, and seasonality will get involved, and you'll get impatient and watch the pot boil, and I know some Larry's going to touch on as well. So really, you can't do testing if you don't have enough data. Now, you can try to compensate for this and try to measure different things. The conversion action might not be, say, again, to use an e-commerce example, an actual sale. It might be an add to cart, because a third of the things that are added to cart are going to be bought. So we have 3 times as many adds to cart as we do sales. So maybe let's measure adds to cart if we're fixing the upstream part of the experience. Or maybe it's just a navigation click. If you have a conversion action deeper in your site, just getting someone to click on the right thing to get closer to it might be 3 pages away. Well, now, via click, you're only 2 pages away. Great. So, again, that micro conversion of a click in the right direction might be a good tactical independent thing that you can measure and test for. But if you don't have the data rate, you just can't do it. So don't pretend to test if you have 2 signups a day. You're never going to be able to do any kind of testing on that. I'm sorry. So you're stuck with whatever qualitative insights you can get from your visitors or other kinds of user research or best practices, but you will not be testing. Okay. I also see another very common problem, and again, just without geeking out on you, I have a whole chapter on the math of testing in my book, but essentially it's based on probability theory and statistics. And what it says is that if you can sample people from a certain population or group and figure out how they behave, then you'll be able to predict the behavior of future people. That kind of makes sense. Well, there's that big if you sample from the same population. Now, if that's some kind of ideal academic experience that you're going to run for your PhD program at the university, that's great. But the real world of online marketing is not clean at all. We have competitors, we have seasonality, we have changes to our traffic mix. So anything fundamental that you change is going to affect your test, and you're no longer getting that purity of, yeah, we're predicting how this group of people acts. For example, you might have something like tax software. You know, we worked with TurboTax, for example. Believe me, the people buying TurboTax 6 months in advance are not the same ones that are ordering it a week before the tax deadline. Likewise, flower websites. You know, the day before Mother's Day, I care about Saturday delivery. I don't really care about price like the people that plan ahead. In travel, you have wicked seasonality, with people from cold places going to warm places in the winter, and probably vice versa in the summer to a smaller degree. The point is that those are all different populations. The buyer of last-minute flowers is different than the buyer of flowers 2 months out from Mother's Day. So if you have strong seasonality or changing demographics or behaviors coming to your site, you can't extrapolate that. So if you do a test on a flower site the week before Mother's Day, you can only use that information for that same cohort or group of people a year out. You can't do it in the off season because people will behave very differently. Those of you that are doing testing with email traffic, also a huge problem because, as you know, time of day that you do the drop and day of week has huge effects on it. And you're also pre-biasing people by all the previous communication you've had with them via email. So if you do insist on testing with email traffic, at least dribble it out. Most email software isn't set up to do that, but evenly over the course of a week in little micro drops. Try to control for those, or if you know that there's some seasonality or a holiday when people act weird, quarantine that part of the data out when you're doing your analysis. So you can do some things to mitigate these problems, but the point is a lot of times you just can't test because the signal is buried in the noise that surrounds it in the environment that you're in. And then a special circle of hell for those people that really just ignore the math altogether and the statistics and basically just try to lock in the winner. Oh, you know, this one just edged ahead for a split second, and I got my little testing tool tells me I got 4 bars now and I have full confidence and this is the winner. Well, no, it's not. You know, you really can't get proper statistics without collecting enough samples. You have to understand error bars. I'm sorry, this is boring stuff, but you know, this is all based on probabilities. Chances are your answer, the real answer, is in this range, or you're pretty sure you found something better, but not how much better it is. Those are the kind of things statistics let us say, but I hear people saying, like, we have 99% certainty that we're 17.2% better. Well, no, you don't. Go back and read at least the basic chapter of my book on testing math. Otherwise, you do have another alternative, and that is save yourself the bother of testing and just flip a coin, because effectively that's what you're doing. You're working with too little data, or just kind of winging it, or cutting tests off early, or not testing in full week increments, and you know, you're not really doing math. You might as well do, like I said, crystal ball divination or coin flipping. So I guess what this all comes back to, from my perspective, is that testing has its place, but testing is not full-on CRO. So you have to keep testing in its proper perspective. It's a way to validate your ideas. It's a way to make sure that hopefully you're not making things worse, that you actually found something better. But if you want to understand the full conversion ecosystem, check out this website we pulled together. Don't do it right now because it has a little video walk-on spokesperson of me on the site that's going to start auto-playing and annoy you. But we've put together the Conversion Ninja Toolbox. This is a free directory of all things conversion related. And at this point, we have about 600 companies in the conversion ecosystem. And as you can see there on the screen, we have a test and improve section. But that's just one tiny part of all of what you should be aware of. So if you don't know analytics, if you don't know usability and user testing, if you don't know how to do effective copywriting, if you're not using things like abandonment recovery, retargeting, online, offline, kind of, if you do have an online, offline business, integration of phone calls and form fills as your calls to action. If you can't bring all of that to bear, you're not doing real conversion rate optimization. You're fighting with one hand tied behind your back. So I hope I've been provocative enough, but basically here's the common problems. When testing is overemphasized, this is what we typically find. The velocity of testing becomes a means, an end to itself. And you start testing trivial stuff as a crutch. basically you're doing bar bets and deciding bar bets with your testing. And as you get better pages, as you're going to find that you're using your best ideas to take your horrible page and make it better, and you'll be out of best ideas soon enough, and your page will get better. So it's going to be very hard for you to beat the control, to beat the original. So you're going to plateau out. But here are my biggest issues with it. You often, because you're so busy testing, forget that you need to redesign your website. And that can give you huge improvements. And it's not just the web experience, it's also your business model. You can't test going to a free sign-up with an upsell if you already have a credit card required business model. It's going to require back-end plumbing and workflow changes and everything else. So you got to stop and redesign your site when appropriate. You got to plug in all of those technology platforms like I was talking about, marketing automation, third-party data append, behavioral targeting, and real-time website changes. That's where the huge wins are when you start integrating those things. And you can't do that via testing. So again, you're also going to be focusing on your own testing ideas and cranking out test plans, and very little time is going to be spent getting real insights from your customers or prospects. So here's some things to think about. I don't have any answers, but I do have questions. Pick flexible testing tools. Understand when testing is not appropriate. Focus on profit improvement and not testing velocity. And if you are going to test, have a tactical track and a more fundamental strategic track where you're testing bigger chunks of stuff. Sometimes you have to stop testing, and don't forget the qualitative stuff. All right, with that, I'm just going to just say, you may not like my conclusions, and all I have to tell you about that is that those are the result of some hard-won experience with our clients. So if you don't like what you're hearing, go get some of your own experience. I'm just going to leave you with that thought and hand it over to Larry, and he's going to blow your mind.
Awesome. Thanks, Tim. I actually met Tim about 5 years ago at a conference out in Los Angeles, and God, it's a shame it's taken us 5 years to do a webinar together, but I'm glad we're able to partner here.
Likewise.
So hopefully you can see my screen here. Just a quick introduction to me. And by the way, I can't speak highly enough about Tim and SiteTuners, and if you're looking for conversion rate stuff for your business, I can't recommend them highly enough. Just quick introduction to me. I'm kind of a PPC guy. Had a kid a couple months ago. There he is. Basically, have a quick poll question. It's just, how long have you been doing paid search, PPC, marketing? Could we open the poll, Kate?
Yep, I opened the poll. It looks like results are starting to come in. Most people here have actually been doing PPC for more than 5 years. About 10% have not started doing PPC yet, so they're looking at help for other types of landing pages. But here I'm going to share the results with you guys so you can see where you fall. Hopefully you can see that, Larry. So, yep. So back to your.
Awesome. And I think we have just one other poll question. It's just if you would please share with us the average conversion rate of your landing pages here, and 0 to 1%, 2 to 3%. Kate, is the poll open?
Yep, poll is open, and we're pretty split. 75% of you guys fall in the first 3 categories, and then the upper 10% are getting a conversion rate of more than 10%, which is kind of the type of bell curve we'd expect. So here are the results of that poll.
That's so interesting. This is very close to kind of my own internal data here. So we'll just continue on here. So on the agenda today, it's just I'm going to be even a bit more bashing of A/B testing than Tim was. I think it's kind of silly. It's basically I think it's like table stakes. It's something nice to do, and you should be doing it, but that it really is like the minimum that you should be doing, and that there should be a lot of other things that you're doing. But in order to motivate you to do this, we'll be talking about things like what really is a good conversion rate, what is possible for your industry and for your business. We'll talk about a review of the top 10% of landing pages, what makes them work, and more. So starting with this first epiphany here, which is that the classic A/B test is, in my opinion, a fairy tale. Perhaps you've heard this fairy tale before. It's very common. It's been written up in many, many blog stories and case studies. Basically, it goes something like this. It says, we changed the, and then you can insert any of the above, like fonts, font type, spacing, button color, image, whatever, and lo and behold, after making that small, 2-minute change, we got a 5% increase in conversions. So, why am I calling this a fairy tale? I actually have a complicated name for this. I call this premature, optimizitis. It's a syndrome. Basically, what happens here? This is just literally like a screenshot from one of these A/B testing tools. What happens is like the early lead disappears. Like, oh, the new variant. Oh, it's winning. Oh. And if you wait long enough, in this particular example, the challenger ends up winning and then losing, depending on when you call the race. And so I kind of think this is a little bit like going on vacation. What do I mean by this? It's like, if you go on a vacation, and if it's terrible, like it rains and it was horrible and there was delays and your luggage got lost, and you get back to the work and people ask you, how was your vacation? A lot of times people will just say it was okay. They're not going to like admit that it was the worst time ever. And the reason is because we want to believe that, because you've invested all this time and energy and money into this vacation, you want to believe that you aren't it wasn't a total waste of time and money. And so we, similarly in conversion A/B testing, we want to believe that all this work that we're doing is paying off. We want to, showcase our value to our boss, and kind of prove our net worth here. But often we are deluding ourselves because it's just it's just human nature, I think. And so my thinking here is that A/B testing, like the typical A/B testing, it's overrated. Like this notion that these small changes. Hey, Tim, is it possible to mute the line there? I'm just hearing some typing in the background. Thanks. Basically, that these small changes are resulting in typically small changes, and even that change that you get, as you can see in that previous diagram, it's generally not as significant or long-lasting as you think it might be. And so I call this rearranging deck chairs and ignoring syncing, and so I'm suggesting that you should not be doing this, and so that begs the question: what should you be focusing on? And so to do this, I think you really need to understand kind of what is possible. Like, so what is a good conversion rate? What should you be striving for? And in a lot of cases, it's a very complicated question. It's like there's a saying that it's difficult to see the forest for the trees. So what I mean by this is like you see your conversion rate. Maybe it's like 2, 3, 4, 5%, whatever. But what you don't know is like how good it could be, because you don't know what other people's conversion rates are. You only have the data that's accessible to you, and so basically it's difficult to see the forest for the trees. And so here's that global picture. We're at WordStream. We work with thousands and thousands of advertisers and have something like $10 billion of ad spend that we can analyze. It's a lot of ad spend. $10 billion, and so I've done the work for you. I've mapped out the forest for the trees here, and I can tell you this is the typical conversion rate distribution of PPC marketing, landing pages across the entire ecosystem. On average, the median advertiser gets like a 2.35% conversion rate for those clicks. The top 25% of you gets 5.31% and above conversion rates, and the top 10% of you, so like the very best 10% of the people on this webinar have a 11.45 and above conversion rate, and I thought that was really interesting because this maps up really closely to kind of like the poll question that I asked earlier, where 10% of you had an above 10% conversion rate, and so. Yes, just a bit about the survey methodologies. It's like this is a lot of money. We looked at billions of dollars, and so my point here is just we have a situation where we have donkeys and unicorns. So a lot of variance in terms of the performance of different types of offers and landing pages. I'm just going to label these like if you're average, and you're or below, like you're a donkey, and those 10% of amazing advertisers with the above 11.45% conversion rates. So those are the unicorn advertisers. So the top 10%. So I wanted to see if this would hold true, not just across all of the different advertisers, but like within specific verticals. Because like e-commerce has a typically a higher conversion rate than a lot of other business, etc. And so basically, what I did was I just sliced and diced it into like 250 different verticals. E-commerce, legal, B2B, finance, and then looked at the data, segmented it that way. And what I found was that like always, across all industries, the median top 10% the top 10% of advertisers within any vertical industry had 3 to 5 times the conversion rate of the average. So this is a pretty much a rule across all the different industries. And so my goal here is to encourage you all to be thinking in your conversion activities to be looking for these larger 3 to 5 times increases rather than A/B testing and mucking around with the button colors to get the 3.5 3 to 5% increases. So going after these landing page unicorns, which have many times the conversion rate from the average donkey out there. And so, the neat thing about this analysis was that because we have so many different accounts, we could look at the data. We could kind of get a sense for what were the tricks and things that these top 10% of advertisers are doing that the other donkeys weren't. And so I'm going to just kind of reveal this to you today. We wanted to find out, where do these donkeys live? What do they do? What do they eat? Like how can you have a donkey have a unicorn of your own? And so I'm just going to give you a couple examples here. The first example here has to do with changing your offer. Well, duh, that sounds very obvious, but it is actually very profound. So I'll give you an example here. WordStream, that's us. We have a software company, and so like, what our offer was up until like 2011? It was a free trial of our software. Like, how original! A software company offering as the primary offer a trial of the software that they're selling. Now, the thing is, it's funny, but it was actually a really, really bad idea. The reason is because learning a new software, it takes time and a lot of energy, and people want to just kind of try something really quickly, not invest time in some solutions. So somewhere around 2012, so a couple of years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, I came up with this other idea. It's like, maybe rather than giving people a trial of our software, we should just do an audit of their account. Just do a true audit of the strengths and weaknesses of their AdWords account, and kind of give them an idea where the problems are and how much money you could save if you fixed it. So no trial, just a report card for your AdWords account. So we made that switch, and this is what I mean by changing the offer. We fundamentally made this change here. I invested like $500,000 in building this new tool, and lo and behold, the new thing converts at 3 to 5. It's 4 times higher than the free trial, and so that is an example of a big win that persisted over time. And the answer was because And how did we know to do this? I mean, it was actually pretty difficult because, like, you know, you're kind of thinking like all the other software companies, like they all have a trial, so I should have a trial too. Like, it's very difficult to know if your offer stinks. I can tell you if your offer stinks. Just look at your conversion rate among the that distribution chart that I was showing you earlier, and if you're like 2.5% or below, then chances are you should be considering doing something better. Another really big clue for me was like asking the customer. So I just added a field to all the contact us forms, and then the question just asked, you know, what was it that you were hoping for us to help you with today? What I found out was that they weren't looking to do a trial of my software. They just wanted to know, like, how's my PPC doing? And so this new offer kind of aligned much more nicely with the intent of those visitors. A second example of this kind of big testing has to do with changing the flow. So here's an example. You know, you're only steps away from downloading the industry's #1 independent trading platform, and of course you can download some software, but it's hidden behind this form. So that was the old flow. The new flow has to do with they just made a slight tweak to the registration. They put the registration at the end rather than the beginning. So you know how this is. Like if you're installing software on your computer, you know, it takes like 2 minutes to download the software, maybe 1 minute or 2 minutes to run the installer. There's multiple steps involved with the installation process. And so by the time you get to the end, you've invested maybe 10 minutes into this process. And at that point, rather than at the beginning, they pop up a dialog box that says, please enter your registration code. And so by just making that kind of change in flow, by putting it at the end rather than the beginning, because now you're kind of more invested in this, there's kind of anticipation building, and you're wanting to try out this great new software. This was like a 3x improvement in conversion rates, and it was just profound. And so it was so good that it actually generated too many leads. So what do I mean by this? In testing, this is true for lead generation as opposed to e-commerce. So in e-commerce, a sale is a sale, right? But in lead generation, if you're just trying to generate contacts to call, you have this issue where you can get more leads, but at a lower quantity. So in that software example that I was talking to you earlier about, like when they made that change, you got so many more leads that it was problematic. There was too many of them, including people who were just trying it out and weren't very serious about using the software. And so then they then made another tweak to that flow where they rather than forcing the registration at the end of the download process, they made the registration optional. So they said, like, you know, it pops up basically, you know, every time you start the software. But then if you start the software more than 10 times, then it became mandatory. And so that was a way to reduce the quantity of leads they were generating, but dramatically increase the quality of those leads. So just this notion of careful with your testing to you know, when you boost these conversion rates, you be mindful of the quality too. Just one more kind of changing the flow example. And I know I'm giving you a lot of WordStream examples, but the reason is because, like, a lot of people don't want to give away their secrets. And so, but basically, this has to do with the registration form for my Google AdWords grader. You know, what I did was I found that the biggest bottleneck in this process was where you link your sign into Google, where you sign into your AdWords account and link with WordStream to Google, because, you know, people, you know, maybe they forget the password or whatever. It's just people that was the kind of where we lost people. So what I did was I just split up the form into 3 steps rather than having it all on one page. It's like now we ask people for a little bit of information, first including the email address, and in the second stage, which is where we lose a lot of people, then we ask them for the for the email address, or sorry, to link to Google. But if they fail to do that, I still have their email address, and I can kind of remarket to them via a drip email campaign, etc., trying to get them to finish the process. So, another example, a big change. Well, it's not big, but it's more than changing a button. It's changing a flow, eliminating a bottleneck, and resulting in a 2, 3, 4x change as opposed to a 2, 3, 4% change. This is the last example I'm going to show you here. Has to do with changing the flow, letting them choose, and it also makes use of like emotional triggers. And so it's like, addiction is an illness; it needs a medical solution, and it has some of these great options like, do you need help now? Does someone does someone you love need help, etc. So this is a very powerful, high converting offer. So hopefully I've kind of motivated you to think about your offer, and not in terms of just changing like the window dressing of that offer, but are there things that you can do to the flow or the type of offer that you're offering to make that many times more effective as opposed to just a few % more effective? So of course this is going to take a little bit of effort, and so what do I mean by this? Well, unicorns are rare and beautiful creatures, and so by definition you can't get them anywhere. You have to try out a lot of different offers, and maybe you have a lot of landing pages on your site already, but my point here is that these two landing pages are the same landing page with different spacing. In order to find these rare and beautiful unicorns, you actually have to try out different offers and different flows. And so a lot of this kind of starts to fall beyond the range of some of these superficial A/B testing tools where you're just like making minor variants to copy or positioning. And so it's not as much work as you think. What we find in PPC is that most of your traffic will go to a small, like 80% of your traffic will go to a small number of your landing pages in general. And so because a lot of small businesses have just, what is it, 3 landing pages total for their PPC campaigns. This is for companies spending up to $5,000 per month on PPC marketing. If you can just have one unicorn, that's enough to like dramatically transform the fortunes of your business. So it's possible, like for lead generation, I'm not talking about e-commerce here, I'm talking about lead generation. It's possible that you might not need dozens and dozens of landing pages. At least that's what my data suggests, because when I look at people with like hundreds of landing pages versus tens or even one landing page, there's no inherent benefit of having lots of different offers. Like so the key here is just like, if you can just nail one of them, as we did with our landing page grader, that can make or break a business. So I know we're running low on time here, but I did want to talk about the possibility of ditching your landing page. So this is kind of weird. Why would you delete your landing page? Well, this has to do with mobile. Okay, so mobile search, it's very interesting. They have this ability where you search for something like emergency plumber, and you can click forward. You can click on the website here, or you can call the call button, that little button on the right side of the search result page there. And so by doing this, it's really interesting because you're bypassing the most leaky step in the conversion process and contacting the plumber directly. And so that has a lot stronger purchase intent, and we're finding that these calls convert like 3 times higher than clicks to websites. And so this is would fall into my category of like looking for 3 to 5 times improvements rather than 3% improvements. Here it is again, the mobile conversion funnel versus the desktop conversion funnel. Like you can just eliminate that leaky stage altogether and get a lot more leads for your business, and it's really remarkable. Like also like the immediacy of mobile, like connecting with the people at the moment they have the pain, as opposed to following up with them the next day or next week. It just makes a tremendous difference. I have companies that have opened call centers, like changed their sales model and how they service the leads based on the effectiveness of mobile. And just one quick hack here, you can make it so that even if people click on the mobile the headline of the search ads, like in the search listings, that you can force it to pop up the call button no matter what, like even if they didn't click on the click the call button. So it's just here you just say show just the phone number if they click on the headline. Oh, geez, we're almost out of time here. So number 6, just don't worry too much about the conversion rates. What am I talking about here? It just kind of reiterating what we were talking earlier about the quality and quantity. Like so, conversion rate, it's just completed actions divided by visitors to a page. Sometimes I feel like some of these A/B tests are merely exchanging quantity for quality. So like, maybe you make the button like 5 times bigger so that, an example is like a share wall, okay, like where you have to share something in order to get the thing that you want. That'll definitely give you more leads, but the questionable quality. And so sometimes when you have telesales organizations or that are trying to follow up on these leads, you end up spending more time and energy chasing down those leads, which could possibly hurt the business, not help the business. Lastly, here I just wanted to suggest the use of remarketing as a conversion rate optimization tool. Now, not everyone views this way. Like people sometimes view remarketing as advertising, but I definitely view it as a conversion rate optimization tool. The reason is because, by definition, you're going after people who visited your site and who didn't do the action that you wanted them to take, which happens the vast majority of the time. Like 96% of the time, people visit your site without taking the action that the marketer wants them to take. And so, this is remarketing by tagging these visitors. It's a opportunity to turn these abandoners into leads. So rather than having one chance to close the deal, you can have 20 or 40 or 50 or 100 opportunities to engage with that possible client. And there's so many different venues for remarketing. People spend something like ridiculous amount of time, like something like 30 or 40 minutes of their day on Facebook, and so you can upload customer lists or web or tag people who visited your website and get them on Facebook and also on Twitter. Twitter advertising was actually pretty useless up until just this year, where they introduced this notion of tailored audiences, where you can track and target people who recently visited your website or specific people on a list. And of course, there's the 800-pound gorilla, the Google Display Network, which is a network of 2 million websites, including like CNN and the Weather Channel and LinkedIn and Google properties like YouTube and Gmail. So you can kind of just be present when people are off your site and doing other things like checking mail, etc. There's one really interesting characteristic that I wanted to tell you about remarketing, which is why I'm so excited about remarketing. It's that the conversion rates, so like think about the number of times you see the same ad over and over again after you check out some product. So the more you see that ad, the less likely you are to click on it. So your click-through rate will go down. However, if you've seen it like 5, 6, 7 times, if you do click on that ad, the more likely that you are to convert. And so because it's a pay-per-click marketing, like you don't pay for the impressions of them unless people click on it, you should be very aggressive here. You should be chasing people, all over the internet with very, aggressive frequency caps, and fear not, because if people do end up clicking on those ads, even after seeing it like 10 or 20 times, they're more likely to convert. So summary here, just wrapping everything up, be a unicorn among a sea of donkeys. I have kind of a low view of A/B tests. It's fine if you want to do it, but that's kind of like table stakes, minimum effort, it's not the whole effort. We're talking about doing big changes, the 2 to 5 times improvements rather than the 2 to 5% improvements. Talking about mobile and how that changes the game, and how remarketing also changes the game. Hopefully that gives you some ideas on where to start. Kate, do you want to talk a little about the offers? That's all I had.
Yeah, I'll just let you keep the slides up on your computer. So I'm going to make this really quick because you guys have had some great questions come in. But like Larry's mentioned all along, we have these tools for you to audit your account for free. And we have Google certified reps at WordStream who are happy to do that audit with you over the phone. So you can start it on your own at those links, or I'm going to launch a poll and you can request to do that with one of our reps. And Larry, if you could go to the next slide, Tim's going to talk about a couple quick offers from SiteTuners.
Yeah, exactly. Well, as Kate mentioned at the beginning, I founded 5 years ago now. Hard to say that, but the International Conversion Conference Series just came back from keynoting our London and Berlin events. So if you're in Europe, those are usually in the fall. If you're in the U.S., we're going from 3 separate events a year to just one big mega show that's standalone. So you have an opportunity right now to register for just under $900 for the full 2-day, 4-track, all kinds of fun activities and networking at the Rio in Las Vegas, May 13th and 14th. But don't miss the early bird deadline. And then also, if we go to the next slide, just want to do a quick shout out. If you want us to tell you how ugly your baby is, we'll be glad to do a 15-minute free conversion review of your site. Now, we limit this to just the first 5 signups that qualify, and you have to do it by Friday. So you don't have to do the review by Friday, but just sign up as soon as you can at that URL that you see there.
Great, thanks, Tim. So now I'm going to launch that poll. Like I mentioned, so you guys can request which of these offers you want. If you want us to walk through the audit of your landing pages, your AdWords campaigns with you, we can also give you a demo of our software that helps you manage your account in 20 minutes a week. Actually, that's the pitch, and it actually is true. The conversion conference discount or the SiteTuners can give you that 15-minute conversion review. So I'm going to leave that up just for a moment while we start the questions, and then I'll put up some contact information for the rest of you guys who we didn't get to your question yet. But the first question I have, this is now going to relate to people who are doing PPC landing pages. When you have a low budget, what do you do to optimize? Can you test with a low budget, or what are some other solutions there?
Yeah, absolutely. It's not about budget, but unfortunately most of the time low budgets also mean low data rates. So if you're not driving lots of traffic with your low budget, it's a problem. If you're getting traffic cost effectively and you have enough to do basic split testing, you can certainly do that. There are a bunch of low cost or free tools out there available for split testing.
Great. What do you think, Larry?
I'm just thinking it's tough. Maybe you could lean on some of those benchmark data that I was providing earlier, like on average, like and there's risks with using averages, but if you're converting it like 2 or 3%, I definitely think that there's room for improvement there.
Cool. And Larry, can you go to the next slide where I have your guys' contact information? I'm going to try and get through, maybe 2 more questions. But if you guys do want to follow up with Larry, follow up with Tim, or just follow up with us in general at WordStream, write that information down there and ask any questions. Get in touch with us. The next question I have is, so we've talked a lot about landing page conversion rate optimization, but what are some areas of the funnel other than your landing page that you can optimize or address to get more conversion?
Okay, well, that's a great question. That's an unfortunate definition issue. Back in the day, Google made it popular to call it LPO, or landing page optimization. My definition is more closer to conversion rate optimization. They're interchangeable to me, or even growth hacking or profit optimization. So it's not just the quote-unquote standalone landing page. It's anywhere where significant traffic lands on your site that leads to eventually, maybe deeper in your site, an important economic conversion action for you. So that whole path from where you land to where the conversion happens is ripe for optimization. It's not just a single standalone catcher's mitt out there.
Cool.
And I talked a little bit in my presentation about like how remarketing and mobile, they're kind of a little bit adjacent to that funnel, but nevertheless really radically change the conversion metrics of that funnel. So.
Yeah, and I want to echo that retargeting and things like that are definitely part of the CRO Toolbox, and that's why I would encourage you to go to Conversion Ninja Toolbox and find out exactly what the whole ecosystem looks like. There's lots of ROI enabling technologies out there.
So Larry, you talked a lot about changing the offer, and how could you guys answer how to find out if your visitors have not liked your offer or not liked your design?
Tim?
Well, I'd say they're voting with their feet. The issue isn't how to find out if they don't like it. The issue is to get to the why they don't like it. And so sometimes with our unconscious motivations, what we say isn't necessarily what we think or what our gut reaction tells us. So I'd say really focus on neuromarketing and understanding how basic brain works and behavioral economics, how we make decisions even though they're irrational. There's a lot of online marketers that are just ignorant of the basics, and there's some really exciting stuff going on in neuromarketing these days.
So just to add to that, for me, it was just asking the customers, like, what really was it that you wanted us to help you with, and then the realization that what I was offering wasn't aligned with, what people were asking for, and then you'd be surprised how often that happens. Of course, you want to have a good offer that's meaningful for most of your traffic, but nevertheless, you get into these weird ruts where, well, every other lawyer offers a free consultation, so I should offer a free consultation too. You just get into these ruts where you just kind of follow the crowd, and then you lose your kind of creativity. In terms of some of the flow things, I also talked about changing flows. So for that, it's you really need to analyze the what are the bottlenecks in your registration process? Where do you lose people? I had some examples where they moved the registration from the beginning to the end, or made it optional.
ClickTail, Kissmetrics, anything that gives you insight into the intra-page analytics, what's actually going on at a very granular level. Are they filling out forms? Which fields are they hesitating over or leaving blank? That sort of thing can be a good source of insight.
Yeah, awesome.
Great. I think I'm going to end the questions there because you guys can always get in touch with us later. I am going to send you a book that Larry and an ebook that Larry and Tim wrote together via chat. It's called Your Baby is Ugly, The Hard Truth About Your Landing Pages. It's got some excerpts from Tim's awesome book as well as some new content from both these guys, and I know it's been helpful for tons and tons of marketers, so if you're looking for some more information, that link is in the chat box. That might be a good place to start. All right, great. Any last words, Larry, Tim?
No, just remember that there's a lot more to conversion rate optimization than simply testing.
And then just be a unicorn, not a donkey. And thanks, Tim. It's really great to finally have done something here with you.
Likewise.
All right, thanks, guys.
Great. Well, thanks for joining us, everyone. Thanks for sticking a couple minutes late, and hopefully we'll see you next week. Bye.